Hi, Seidel here, sound astrologer, and I'm so excited to talk to you today about Scorpio. Scorpio energy is absolutely incredible, and I think it gets a really bad rap a lot. I feel like there's some signs out there in the zodiac that are just really celebrated, and then some that are just like poo-pooed. And I feel like Scorpio is one of those signs that kind of gets poo-pooed. And so I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited to share what I hear as I have really taken some time to listen to Scorpio. So, Scorpio energy, and I want to talk about this very first thing. Scorpio energy has been known as this like hiding energy or this cave, going into the cave and like um, not wanting to be seen. It's kind of like this dark, it feels like it's been presented as dark energy or like a darkness or a heaviness. That can be absolutely the case for Scorpio in the shadow. Scorpio, however, in the light is encouraging us to have solitude and to take time to go within. So Pluto is the planet that rules Scorpio. Pluto is birth, death and rebirth. And the best way to like rebirth ourselves is to go within and to take that time for solitude. So, where Scorpio is in your chart, what house it's sitting in, that's where the Scorpio energy is encouraging you to take time to go within. It's encouraging you to allow yourself a little bit of solitude so that you can hear and see clearly before you go without. And it's very exciting. And I very much see this as the case for my own creativity. So when I go to listen to the planets, um, when I want to hear something, the best thing for me to do is to set all of my information that I have learned and gained on a shelf and to just be with myself for a few minutes. Is really helpful if there's white noise or if I'm looking at somebody's chart, but it just needs to be just me, no other sounds, right? And as soon as I do that, it's like boom, and the transformation is like a light switch. The transformation happens, and then it's downloaded information very quickly, and it's deep information too. So take a look at your chart. See where that Scorpio energy is. See where Scorpio is really encouraging you to take time for a little bit of solitude with yourself. Okay, so going from that, I want to transition into this really exciting thing that I heard a few weeks ago about Scorpio. Um, I love talking to my daughter about her chart. She's always asking me, she'll ask me about her chart and then I will get to listen to things and just really hear and understand and I love doing that with people. It it helps me hear the complexity of the sign and it's so exciting to be able to help people hear themselves better and the depth of themselves better. So we were just listening to her chart and she was making a comment about how when she's with people, she can see them so clearly, but they can't see her. Now, she is a Scorpio rising. And as soon as she said, "Why is that the case?" I knew instantly that it is because she's a Scorpio rising. So, where Scorpio is in our chart is also where we see other people really clearly, or we see that part of them really clearly. So I have a friend, she has Scorpio in the 11th house, and she says she can walk into a room and she can read the group so easily, right? It is also where we have a hard time seeing ourselves. So I have Scorpio in the fifth house, and I can see everybody's creativity like nobody's business. I'm like, oh yeah, so creative, so creative. This is like their unique gift. And I'm like, I'm not creative. I'm not creative at all. Like I can't do art. I don't write music. Like I have to have like, you see my piano back there. I have to have like actual um music to read, right? I don't make up recipes. Like that's the only way I'm creative, right? Um, so it's where we also struggle to see ourselves clearly and where we might not let other people see us clearly as well. And this is where we can go back and we can say, okay, Scorpio is inviting me to take some time to be with myself in this area so that I can then show up and be seen at large in a bigger way, right? So for the first house, if you take time to be with yourself before you be with other people, then it will help you show up and be seen by other people. So if you have Scorpio in the second house, that's really worth and value and money. So it might be really easy for you to see other people's worth, but you might struggle with it yourself. And so taking that time to sit with your worth and to like really dig into that and dive into that and be willing, right? Because this is the big part, like the the biggest part between not being able to see and being able to see, like the first step into that um, is our willingness and our desire to want to see it. So, in order for me to see my creativity, I really had to want to see it. I had to be open to see it. I was like, okay, maybe I might be creative. I'll put that maybe out there, right? And then I was a lot more, um, and then it took some time. And then I was like, okay, maybe now, maybe I could consider that I'm actually creative. And now I'm like, oh, heck yeah, I'm like super creative in the way that I receive information. I'm like, and the way that I get downloads and the way that I understand astrology is very creative. And so I can see that a lot more clearly, right? So we've got the second house of worth and value. The third house is the house of communication, right? So you can see other people's communication clearly. You might have a hard time expressing that communication yourself and really getting your point across. And so taking that time to go within to really understand what it is that you want to say. The fourth house, being at home with yourself. Like you can see other people. Um, you might struggle, like you can see other people and how they feel comfortable. You might be able to see other people and how they feel uncomfortable. And you can see like their home, you can see their home really clearly. But maybe seeing your home, like the energy of your home and understanding what's going on, that might be a little bit harder. So just taking that time to maybe sit in that space and ask, okay, what is this space telling me? And just listen and feel the energy of that space. And obviously this well, I was going to say actually, the if there are planets sitting in that house, that is an indicator of what can help you hear that. So I have Uranus in Scorpio in retrograde in my fifth house. And so I know that as I set aside the structured, this is what creativity looks like, and I really just say, how do I do it in a really unique way? Because Uranus is all about the uniqueness, right? The authenticity. So it was saying to me for a long time, I didn't hear it. It was saying, Seidel, you actually are very creative in a very unique way, right? And so as soon as I heard that, then I was like, oh, I am creative. So thus the signs or the planets that you have in Scorpio in that can also aid you in stepping into that energy. If you have no planets in that, do not despair. It just is really about you taking that time for solitude, right? And there are other things that in your chart that can also help us understand how you can connect to that Scorpio energy a little bit better. So we have the fourth house. The fifth house, we've gone over a little bit, creativity. I've shared my story with that. The sixth house is those daily activities, right? And so really being able to see what works for other people and their daily activities. How can they how do they function on a daily basis the best? And so working that out for yourself can be a little bit tricky with that Scorpio energy. So again, taking that time. And then the seventh house is beautiful. This intimate relationships and what a beautiful energy to combine with Scorpio and taking that time to really be intimate with yourself so that you can then be intimate with other people. The eighth house is the house of transformation, right? And so maybe seeing how other people transform, and then maybe sometimes you get stuck in seeing, am I transforming? Am I making any progress? Yes, you are. Take some time with yourself and see those little steps. Ninth house is travel and education, religion. So maybe seeing that in other people, like how they're able to teach and the gifts that they have with teaching. What gifts do you have with teaching? Take some time and be with yourself. The 10th house. Now, the 10th house, I want to say, um, as the MC in the 10th house, some people can be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be seen. I'm hiding myself from the world. Remember, that is just in the shadow. When you have Scorpio in the light, it means I come in and I take time for myself before I go out into the public. I take time to really gather all of that business inside of me, all of that work inside of me or whatever's happening, and then I put it out. And then you can see other people's businesses super clearly. So this is like really exciting. And then we went over groups a little bit at the beginning, just with my friend being able to see like groups really well. And then having a tendency to not be seen in a group or not think they're seen in a group. And so really taking the time in when you're in that space, when you're in the group, to even in that, you can just be like, okay, I'm gonna just take a second and I'm gonna see me, right? And I'm going to allow myself to be seen even within just me. And then we can step into that space. And then the 12th house is your personal relationship with God. This is the gospel of astrology according to Seidel, right? So like stepping into that personal relationship with God and allowing that to be allowing your relationship with God to be a solitary thing, like to know that in the beginning, especially, or anytime you're trying to expand or share your a spiritual experience, that you first need to have that time and allow yourself that time and space to be just with God. Okay, the one other thing that I wanted to share about Scorpio is that Scorpio is all about deep pleasure. Is that beautiful? Just deep pleasure and allowing that deep pleasure to come into your life. So, where Scorpio is in your chart, sink into that. Sink into that pleasure. Open the door and allow yourself to really enjoy on I want to say, like on a body level. So, when you enjoy something, or you're feeling really good in that specific area of your life that Scorpio is sitting in, I want you to like repeat this affirmation. It is safe for me to experience pleasure. And you can just like tap, it's safe for me to experience pleasure. It feels so good to experience this pleasure. I actually did that on my birthday for my solar return. I'm a Scorpio midheaven, and I did experience deep pleasure on my birthday. And I was just like, oh, it is so good. It is so safe to experience pleasure. It feels so good for me to experience pleasure by myself and to experience this pleasure with other people. That is what I wanted to share, just a little snippet of Scorpio. So drop a comment below and tell me, what house do you have Scorpio in? We'll see you on the next video.